Hello, I'm Kate Jabot and welcome to a special edition of British Forces News from inside Buckingham Palace. This iconic location isn't only the Queen's official residence, it's also the beating heart of everything she does. As Commander-in-Chief to the British Armed Forces, it is to the Queen and her heirs that every soldier, sailor and airman swears allegiance. And as the only dedicated forces broadcaster, we've been granted unprecedented access within these walls for a close-up personal glimpse of that special relationship between the military and the monarch. More than 50,000 people visit the palace every year as guests of the Queen at lunches, banquets, dinners, garden parties and also military medal ceremonies. The Prime Minister has a private meeting with her every week, but she also has very personal encounters with the military, as Claire Sadler's been finding out.
It's a typically busy day at Buckingham Palace as dignitaries arrive for their audiences with the Queen. The new Ukrainian ambassador is the first, transported from her embassy in a carriage from the Royal Mews. The incoming and outgoing colonels of the Royal Welsh are also meeting the Queen today. Her Majesty has been Colonel-in-Chief of their regiment since it was formed in 2006.
It's a real honour to be presented to Her Majesty, and not something that comes around very often or for very many people, so one is inevitably a little bit nervous.
The brigadiers are met by the Queen's Equerry Wing Commander Sam Fletcher. They are then taken for a briefing next door to the 1844 room where the audiences are taking place. How do you prepare for something like an audience with the Queen?
I think about what she might like to hear about her regiment, think about what she's been doing recently and what she's been doing with the regiment. And it's a very free-flowing and very enjoyable conversation, which we hope she enjoys as well.
The outgoing and incoming colonels, the Royal Welsh, Your Majesty.
Good morning, Your Majesty. Philip Napier, outgoing James Swift, who's taking over as we speak.
And you're just taking over at the moment, aren't you?
That's right, yes.
So you've done how long now?
I would have done 4.5 years.
4.5 years.
It seems to have flown by.
I'm sure, yes.
Very great privilege to be the Colonel Regiment of a very fine regiment.
Very fine regiment indeed,
you know
yes.
From very many years ago.
Yes.
As the Royal Welsh is.
Yes. Well, I think I must go back longer than anybody, I think, probably.
I think you were one of your first.
Yes, indeed, yes. And it's gone through various changes.
Indeed, yes, most recently. But we were a bit sad to lose Philip so early. The expectation was he was going to serve longer and therefore be colonel longer. So, but he's moved on to better things, so I've stepped in.
I've become the clerk to the Worshipful Company of Saddlers.
Saddlers, oh right. Yeah, that one might be quite interesting, actually.
Well, I like horses.
It's
proven to be excellent.
Indeed. So you've been summoned to take over?
Indeed, yeah, well, as Philip says, it's a great honour.
But you were in the regiment?
Yes,
you were
indeed.
both?
Yeah,
were you both?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're coming on your role.
The Queen holds audiences here at Buckingham Palace whenever she's in residence, and they can take place up to twice a week. And it's not a quick affair. Each one lasts around 20 minutes. As well as the two brigadiers, the Queen has also seen 2 new ambassadors and their family and staff. There will be no written record of the audiences, as Her Majesty treats all these meetings as private. How did your audience with the Queen go today?
She was on amazing form and really chatty and engaging, as is so often the case, and so it was a real privilege.
How important is the royal link to the regiment?
Really important, very valued, really from our cadets up to our comrades, and Her Majesty is a great supporter of the regiment. Indeed, one of our previous regiments was one of her first, and so the link goes back a very long way, and she came to visit my battalion just before we went to operations in Iraq in 2007, and the sort of lift that gives the battalion and its families is really immeasurable.
If it's okay for me to ask, what did you have a talk about?
Well, we talked about her visit to Cardiff to present new colours to the regiment, which took place in June of last year. We talked about Wales and the army in Wales and the army from Wales, and how important it was for the Welsh economy, how important it was for employment. We then talked about the upcoming celebration of her 90th birthday and how the regiment might play a role in that. She's very interested in horses, and now that I've left the army and left the regiment, I'm the clerk to the Worshipful Company of Saddlers, so we talked a little bit about horses and the party that's going to take place on the Mall to celebrate her 90th birthday.
A great way to go out of your military career, finishing it with an audience with the Queen, I guess.
Well, it doesn't get much better, I would say, and it's been a great privilege, a lot of work over the last 5 years in support of the regiment as the Colonel. But I'm very pleased and delighted that she invited us to have an audience with her today, and it's a bittersweet moment, but she was delightful, and I'm very grateful for her support.
Well, let's go upstairs now, in fact, right up onto the roof, because it's there you'll find the Queen's Flag Sergeant. It's a post filled by a non-commissioned officer, currently from the Grenadier Guard's band. Claire Sadler's been to meet him.
Thousands of tourists flock to see Buckingham Palace every year, many hoping to catch a glimpse of the monarch. There's just one way to know if the Queen is currently staying at her official London residence, and that's by the flag that's flying on top.
Her Majesty has a royal standard flying wherever she is in residence, be that here at Buckingham Palace or in Windsor or at Holyrood, so on and so forth. It goes up and down as Her Majesty enters and leaves the palace during her time of residence.
And when the Queen isn't in residence, the Union flag flies. As the Queen's Flag Sergeant, Lance Sergeant Bowen of the Grenadier Guards has a number of responsibilities.
I keep an inventory of the Queen's flags. I'm the guy that puts the flags up and down on the top of various palaces. I travel wherever Her Majesty goes. To Easter Court we go to Windsor, during Balmoral Court obviously we go to Balmoral, there's times we're in Holyrood. Here at Buckingham Palace I put the flags up and down on the roof here. I look after all the flags as they come in and out. Sometimes Her Majesty will have engagements all over the world really, and flags need to be sent prior to those engagements. So in here is the cupboard where we keep the English Royal Standards. I got in possession at the moment, I think probably about 150 from various different ages, various different times. The biggest one here is the Garter Ceremony Standard, which is 38 feet by 18, as it says. It's nearly half a tennis court, and that's the one that takes a bit of getting up and down in the wind. 24 by 12 is a state visit flag. When we have other countries coming to visit, we put a big flag on top to let everybody know that there's a celebration. It moves then down to the garden party flags. When Her Majesty's holding a garden party, we have another size. We've got every day over 12 by 6, and so it goes on and on right the way through until you get to the very small ones, which are what we call a car pennant, and they're the ones that travel on the top of the royal cars when Her Majesty's in the car. This one's an English one, as I said. You've got 3 lions passant and 1 lion rampant. When Her Majesty goes to Scotland, the Scottish standard has the lion rampant in either corner and the lions passant in this corner here.
The raising of the royal standard is timed to coincide with the Queen passing through the palace gates.
We've just received a 2-minute warning, so it's 2 minutes arrival time.
Thank you, John. Cheers. I have a radio, I have communications with the police control room here and with Her Majesty's staff, and we got it timed to the second exactly.
Although today is going to plan, that's not always the case.
On Her Majesty's birthday parade, there's a 38 feet by 19 foot flag, which we call the anniversary flag, and sure enough, I want to put that up, and it got a bit windy one time. I had to grab the policeman who was also on the roof looking at the crowds and make sure, get myself a bit of a hand. Once the wind got it was really quite strong. But yeah, normally everything goes really quite smoothly.
And it must be one of the jobs with the best views in London. When he's not on the roof, the flag sergeant takes care of guests during audiences with the Queen at investitures and during receptions.
We all sign or swear the oath of allegiance to serve Her Majesty and her officers below, and this is the place, certainly at the top of the tree, to do just that. You can't get any nearer to serving Her Majesty than being here physically serving Her Majesty.
And Lance Sergeant Bowen will be doing the job for a while longer yet. His position has just been extended for another 2 years.
Now, you may think that all this talk of upstairs, downstairs staff sounds very Downton Abbey, but it's also a fact of life in the world's most famous royal residence. I'm here to meet the man who's in charge of the downstairs. He's the master of the household and a former Royal Navy officer. Good to meet you.
Hello, Kate.
Hello.
Welcome to Buckingham
Can I have a
Palace.
look inside?
Yes, please. Come in.
Vice-Admiral Tony Johnstone Burke, great to meet you. How does a man who started in the Royal Navy in 1977, has been in the Falklands War, has done counter-narcotics in Afghanistan, all kinds of high-powered jobs, including commanding several ships, end up being the master of the household here at Buckingham Palace?
Well, Kate, it's a huge surprise to me as well. When I was interviewed by the Queen, she said to me, "You haven't done any of this before, have you?" And I said, "No, ma'am." "You mean you haven't been in the Royal Yacht?" "No, ma'am." "And you haven't been in an aquarium?" "No, ma'am." "Well, there's clearly a lot for you to learn." And I said, "Yes, ma'am. Well, that won't change a habit of a lifetime."
It didn't put you off then?
No, but so I've had a fabulous career, okay, absolutely fabulous, and it was a chance. It came, I was asked if I would be interested in applying, so I did and went through the process.
Do you remember that first meeting then with the Queen?
Vividly. It was so surreal, so thrilling. I'll never forget it. And Her Majesty was charming.
Okay, so you must have had an idea of what the job was going to be like before you started. How did it compare to the reality?
Close. It was. I thought it might be quite like the Navy, really, but I don't know why. Because it's not. It is in some ways and it is in others. The whole, and I've worked across all three services, particularly, as you kindly said, in Afghanistan and Iraq, and flying helicopters on operations. And the real similarity is the pursuit of excellence in everything we do. And secondly, teamwork. And my mantra here is there's one team, one standard, and the standard is exceptional, regardless. There's no bronze or silver. so this is it, and it's the teamwork is fantastic here, and the people are the same. People are young, enthusiastic.
Yeah, interesting, because you presumably work with civilians as well.
Yes.
As people who are ex or serving military
Yes,
people.
yes.
How do they compare?
Very similar, hugely bright in the same way. You have to change your leadership style a bit. You can't. Well, when I hadn't realised it, but in the military, if you say, "Kate, I really want this done now, please," Kate will do it. But in the civilian world, the real Kate,
You say,
will
please a bit more, do you?
You have to say please a huge amount more. And say, could you possibly have the time? Could you make the time to do this? This is quite a high priority for me, Kate. It'd be really, really most grateful. So that's the sort of slightly different.
You talk about the pursuit of excellence. I mean, there must be times, as you've seen on exercise, where things go a bit wrong.
Yes.
Do you have a kind of communication process with perhaps the monarch, with the Queen,
Yes.
when she gives you
Yes.
a certain look? What does she do?
Yes. Nothing. The military have a wonderful expression which no plan survives contact with the enemy. In other words, stand by for change. We plan to the nth degree, and then stand by for change. Her Majesty and the Duke of Edinburgh and all the other members of the royal family are so brilliantly professional. They notice change, they notice that things are going off piste, and they don't blink at all, and they expect you to cover and compensate.
So you just know when things are going wrong?
Oh, yes, and they do too. But nobody, we just make it better. So, Kate, this is called the Master's Corridor. And as we go to the picture gallery, before we do that, what I'd love to show you is just an example of the planning and organisation that goes into a state banquet or a reception. Here we've got a picture of a state banquet here in the ballroom. And this happens to be for President Obama. This one is in Windsor Castle. And the planning, and this is just an example of the top table plan. This was actually the last day visit. And you can see on the right of the Queen, the President of the People's Republic of China, and the Duchess of Cambridge on his right.
This job has often gone to people in the military, hasn't it?
Yes, it has, yes.
Does that sort of feed into the kind of contingency planning, the organisational?
I think it does. My appointment was open to everybody when I did the interviews, so that was good. So Her Majesty is very open to anybody applying, man, woman, military, civilian. But I think there is quite a lot of similarities in terms of planning and insistence on the very highest standards of excellence.
What else is there to see?
Let me take you through. So, okay, this is the picture gallery.
Wow.
And this is the most fabulous room where we hold all our receptions. So if you can imagine 200-300 people come in here, we give them champagne and canapes, and we relax them before they meet Her Majesty the Queen. And they meet Her Majesty in something called the White Drawing Room, which is right up at the end on the left.
I can almost hear the walls ringing with conversation and festivities.
Well, when this was really done up and refurbished when Queen Victoria came to the throne, it'd been neglected a bit by William IV. George IV, before him, had done a huge amount of bling. He wanted to turn the whole place into Versailles, and George IV didn't like it very much. William after him didn't like it very much, but Queen Elizabeth, when she was 18, she came to the throne. Within the stories are within 48 hours, she had a huge party, and I can imagine a big fancy dress party.
This is your favourite room, is that right? Why?
Because it holds the most beautiful paintings. On this end, we've got all the Italian paintings, and you've got Canalettos. We've got the biggest collection of Canalettos in the world, again thanks to George IV. And the Queen is determined, really feels passionately that this is the nation's collection. She doesn't know it, it's not a private one, and it's for them to see, and that's the objective. And again, that's part of my job to make sure that the Royal Collection is given every opportunity. The Royal Collection Trust is given every opportunity to demonstrate, to show off this wonderful collection to the nation. So Italian this end, and then Dutch that end.
All originals, of course.
Of course. So here you've got the most wonderful picture by Rembrandt of the shipbuilder.
Wow.
And here you've got the most wonderful example of his wife bothering him with a bill, interrupting him, and you can actually see the veins on his nose.
And I understand that members of the military come here as well.
They do, Kate. Well, but this is a central, not only for big receptions, but for investitures. This is really central in terms of the organisation, because everybody thrilled to bits, really excited, all with their hats and medals, and not medals yet, but hooks ready for the medal, are all come here for their briefing, and they're all pushed up this end of the corridor and briefed by our expert people.
Do you actually miss being in the thick of it, given your military experience now? A desk job, but huge responsibility, admittedly. But do you ever miss it?
I miss bits, but the best bits, and around the room in my office, you can see that I put all the photographs of the ships I've commanded, and I miss commanding ships. But And so given another chance, I'd love to command a ship again. But there's no way that the Navy would ever let me command another ship.
Why not?
So because I'm retired and too senior, and I'd probably be a danger. But I adore people, and this is where I love. And I'm in a sort of little command here of my own. So.
And if you were to compare your boss
Yes.
to the Queen, to former military commanders you've worked for,
yes.
how different is she?
She is probably the best leader I've ever worked for. She is the most humble. In great leaders, the greatest leaders have the greatest humility and the greatest understanding and caring about people. I mean, we all hold, naval officers hold Nelson up as a great leader. Why? Because he had passion and he was humane. He cared about people. Her Majesty cares about people deeply. Often she would say to me, if I've got a personnel issue, she'd say, "Master, are you being kind?" And I say, "Yes, of course, Your Majesty. This is the best thing for this person." So that's the most incredible thing. So she is the greatest leader I've ever worked for.
What do you think military commanders could learn from the Queen and her leadership style?
I think vision, humility, pragmatism. I think an ability to stand back, see a wider picture, pause before acting. In the military, often we're encouraged to, any decision is better than none.
Finally, you said earlier that when you first met the Queen, she said you had a lot to learn. How are you doing?
I'm about 50%, I think. That's 5 out of 10.
I don't want to hold you up, then. Get on with your work, then.
A lot more to learn.
Admiral, great to meet you. Thank you very much.
Indeed. Okay, thank you.
Every year, thousands of tourists turn up to see the changing of the Guard. The red tunics and the black bearskins of the immaculately turned out Palace Guards are synonymous with Buckingham Palace. So what better way to end our special day than a behind-the-scenes look of what life is really like for the men and women behind one of the world's most famous military displays.
Face forward. Officers form a single rank facing left. Senior Sergeant St James's Palace Detachment. Quick march!
Early morning at Wellington Barracks in central London.
Corporals here.
Only a stone's throw away from Buckingham Palace. It's here where soldiers from the Coldstream Guards who are up next on the Queen's Guard duty rehearse their drill for the changeover.
No shoulders back. Just raise your chin slightly, men. Just so you're looking up just a little bit. Showing yourselves off now. You're not wearing them on the bit, are you?
Whatever the weather, even on this bitterly cold morning, they spend an hour going over their routine. Not only because they'll be in front of thousands of tourists and spectators, but you just never know when Her Majesty might be watching.
Just straighten your shoulders up there slightly. No, relax.
At the moment we're seeing the check parade, which is a bit of a shakeout that the soldiers do every morning before the parade. That's just to iron out any little glitches and just get them in the right frame of mind for mounting Queen's Guard.
The changing of the Guard is always done with precision and utter perfection. And this is exactly why.
Forward, get back, get back, get back!
Even they can get it wrong sometimes, and it's only with practice that they'll get it spot on.
Very important. No two guards are ever the same. Many of the soldiers might be standing next to someone different or fulfilling a different role than they've done previously.
You're all scrunched up. Get an arm's distance.
It's always good just to run them through the format here where the Sergeant Major can correct any little minor faults or points to work on, and so we can have a good parade later on in the morning.
Some days are better than others. Just depends if everyone's kind of switched on and thinking and doing what they should do, really. But yeah, it's ups and downs, so it wasn't bad this morning. But I mean, that's why we have check parades, to make sure to iron out any little areas that need work on, so that when we come to the actual mount, all those little errors are sorted out, so we're delivering the best possible public duties that we can.
Company, to your duties. Dismissed!
Once the regimental sergeant major is content that he's ironed out all mistakes, the guards leave to get into their full uniform. ready for the 11:30 a.m. changing of the guard. From head to toe, every single piece of garment and accessory worn must be absolutely perfect. From cleaning their boots, shining their belt, to brushing down their grey coat. And of course, there's this, the most recognisable item for any Queen's Guard, the iconic bearskin, which was originally worn by the Grenadier Guards after the Battle of Waterloo. Now, for decades, these were made from the fur of a Canadian black bear. And actually, this one is an original. But nowadays, they're made from synthetic material.
Basically, you can see I've tied it in there to fit on my head. And that will make me see through properly. And sometimes, because I've been holding it so it's rough, so sometimes I just wiggle it and put it in like that, so perfectly sitting there.
So I can see there that you can actually see me,
yeah,
where with others sometimes it looks as if the fur's right over their eyes.
Yeah, it depends on, like I said, the adjustment system, so it depends on how you want it to sit on your head, basically.
So you can fully see, full vision.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're good to protect the Queen.
Yeah, good to go. I was born ready.
In the summer, this changing room is full of colour, as the guards wear the iconic red and black tunics. In the winter, it's the grey coat that makes an appearance.
It's hard work, but it is very good doing it right. Not many people get to do it, and get to stand outside Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, St James Palace, Tower, London. So this is my first Queen's Guard today as well.
It's quite a privilege, isn't it? But also a responsibility.
Oh yeah, big responsibility. Not just there to look good outside the box. We're there to do a job and stand our ground if anything does happen.
Preparations complete, the Coldstream Guards make the short journey over to Buckingham Palace. In front of thousands, the old and new guards perform the pomp and ceremony, loved by tourists from all over the world. The changing of the guard takes 45 minutes. The Buckingham Palace detachment get into position, whilst the St James's Palace detachment are escorted by the Coldstream Guards Corps of Drums down the Mall to Friary Court. Another successful changeover. The Queen's Guard are in place, ready for their 48-hour duty to protect and guard Her Majesty and the royal family.